this is Sylvain Rochon, the Peaceful Revolutionary, and welcome to another update about some of my thoughts, my opinions on technology. Today, or this week, what I want to discuss is about digital participation in legislature. Essentially, and this is something that has been discussed since the late 70s in some areas. People feel that, we have deputies that represent us in Parliament at different levels of government, but we have means, digital means, to actually participate. Email, texting, and other methods, especially like all sorts of methods through the internet, to kind of poll and get a sense of what we to give legislatures a sense of what the people want and need directly, because there's sites like change.org or other websites that are perfectly suited to propose different topics, and people can vote, petition, support, and write comments about certain things. And so why not crowdsourcing that information directly from the constituents instead of going through a filter that is like a deputy? And so yeah, that's totally viable. I mean, that's totally fine. So why don't we do that? Well, the problem is, just like everything else, is that we have a system in place that is quite big. There's lots of employees involved in the governmental process and the parliamentary procedures, and there is I guess a long duration trust in that system that it kind of works. And people don't, like, especially when it's big systems, people don't want to change it to something else if it kind of works, if it doesn't really disrupt their lives so much. So we'd rather kind of keep the system as is, in fear that a new system that may sound better could cause some problems, and because it's kind of an unknown system. As crowdsourcing becomes more and more popular over a number of years, and for those of you who don't know what crowdsourcing is, I'm just going to give you an insight. This is like methods to get information or support from massive amounts of people, and collecting that into little pots of opinion that you can study and analyze. One good crowdsourcing platform is Kickstarter. You may have heard of that. It's been around for at least 10 years, I think. And Kickstarter, what it does is that anybody can propose a project, like a business project, a research project, a service or something like that. Usually it's a product in their case, and it asks people, okay, well, I want to do this project. Here's what it is. Here's what it's going to mean to you, and I need funds to get it going. And individuals just like you and I, can go onto the site and say, hey, I think that has value. I'm going to put my money here to get the product before it's done, because I'm going to support it. So it's support based. Projects that are well supported get funded, and hopefully the people that propose the project actually enable and or make the product and distribute it to the people that have pledged or that put their money. And projects that don't fly because there's not enough support, well, they just don't. So that's crowdsourcing. It's a method of asking people, what do you want? Tell me. Put your money or your mouth where you want it to be, and we'll do it. Right? In the online community, also for programmers, a lot of crowdsourcing of resources, like open source software is a great example of a collaborative construction of software that in some cases has better quality than commercial grade software, and it's often distributed for free or offered to be built upon by other software developers to kind of make something better or make something different. But that's another type of crowdsourcing, where people actually do something like coding, using an online platform to collaborate and make something out of it directly. So they're not, the systems of crowdsourcing with open sources are not collecting money. They're collecting skill and program and coding lines, and so people collaborate and make a software together, and then it's distributed to everybody that's contributed, including people that haven't contributed directly as well, and we can all benefit from those software. Like I'm sure you've already have benefit to a lot of open source software, even though you're not aware of it. So this new world of crowdsourcing is out there, and it's gaining a little bit of steam in the legislature or in government. There's strong signs in some parts of the world where people are just fed up with political parties. They're just fed up with the way democracy kind of works, or pseudo democracy, especially in France these days. 87% of the French reject categorically political parties. That's like according to a poll in 2016, like very recently, and part of it is because of all the stuff that's happened after the bombings in France and the martial law. I mean, so there's a bit of emotion around that, but that's how it starts. People get fed up with the political systems, they say, and they want a change. And in this case, they're not really asking for a very smart change, in my opinion. They don't want to have the political parties. They rather have a strong person, an individual, like a dictator, it seems, in place to kind of settle things and reorganize everything for the population. So I don't think the solution that the people are asking for is the right solution. I think they want something like digital democracy, something that has been not only discussed but also put in place in Mexico City this year. What happened? I think it was last year, 2015 or so. Mexico City became gained its right, independent from the nation of Mexico, its right to institute its own constitution for the city itself. About 9 million people live there, and what the mayor decided to do in Mexico City, okay, we need to build a constitution, so let's use change.org. Literally, they're using that polling site, that petition site, to allow the citizens of Mexico City to tell him what should be in the Constitution, what should be most important, and people can vote and say, okay, this one, I like it, and issue their comments. And then he set up a panel of experts in different fields to study these responses as they come in, and decide which ones are really viable to actually implement into the Constitution. So we're not dealing with politicians. We're doing like professional experts, like engineers, music DJs, apparently, and different individuals that represent the citizens in. But not in the same way as a deputy would, because these are not politicians. These are craftsmen, professionals, people that know different segments of how a city or the population think, or how they're run, how the different segments of the population work, how they work, where they work, that kind of deal. So they'll look at the results and the comments and decide, okay, what and how should be put in the Constitution. So that's a great idea. Again, this is an experiment, and even for them, they don't know how it's going to actually pan out. But we're going to keep an eye on that, because that's a great way to do it. You don't necessarily want the population to just haphazardly decide on policies. You need people that know certain things, like experts or geniuses. Like I've always talked about Geniocracy, for example, and I'm going to put up a link for Geniocracy as well, to look into it and make the final decisions in how to tweak these ideas into applicable rules, constitutional law, or projects. Because the general population may want something in general, but it may not be well formulated into something that has an application in real life, just because you just don't know the intricacies of what they're asking for sometimes, right? I can give you an example. You can ask, well, I want to have safer streets. Well, okay, everybody may want to have safer streets, and there's a lot of comments on how that's going to happen. But to actually do that, maybe you need an expert like somebody that's been in the police force for 30 years as an expert to say, okay, well, I'm reading all the comments. Like, here's how we're going to set up a law in the Constitution to 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 enable the citizens' need or want that's very strong for safer streets, right? Because that's very vague. How does that work? How do you write it up so that you actually have something that protects people and that is usable as constitutional law, for example? Anyway, so that's one of the best examples I could find of a start of participative democracy. Another one that's been actually active in my country, Canada. It's been discussed since 1978 or so, before anything was very digital. It was the Conscientious Act for military taxes, conscientious objections to military taxes. Sorry, it started in 1979, and what it is that there's been a lot of lobbying to the Canadian government by different organizations, typically religious organizations in its history, to let people decide whether or not their taxes should go to military spending or not. So when you fill out your income taxes, you say, no, I conscientiously object for my taxes to go to military spending. So your taxes would go fully to non-military use as far as spending is concerned if you check that box. It's never passed so far, but there was a private member bill from 2011, Bill C-361, if you're interested, that was attempted by a private member, and to actually set that up. In 2015, there was another bill that was attempted as well. It also was discussed and wasn't passed. But those are attempts, and it always comes back because people want more control as far as how the country is run, how they pay their taxes, for what taxes should be used. These are different elements or different bits of attempts for the population to have their own voice, bypassing in a certain way the democratic system that's currently in place and bloated with layers of politicians that filter, and ultimately a lot of the good stuff, in my view, doesn't pass through all that stuff, and you end up with political platforms that are meant to popularize the political party so that they get voted again, but not necessarily things that are for the benefit of the people. And we certainly have very little voice into what ultimately passes in the legislature in our countries, because the motivations of the people in political parties are not in tune with the individual needs and rights and desires of the individuals, the citizens of the country. With the internet and different platforms, we can directly, just like what they're doing in Mexico City, we can directly say, hey, this is what I want. And collectively people can say yes or no, and here's how you modify it. And we can have a geniocratic committee that refines and takes that into application, so that without going through a political process, you can actually put into legislature or into action, into execution, the people's will. And you're bypassing the whole democratic process. You don't need the democratic process anymore. You don't need to have people discussing and arguing in opposition, like the government and the opposition, on certain topics. All we need to do is poll the population. Okay, well, population, what do you want for this? And people just write, just a little bit like writing a new wiki article. People kind of write things. Okay, this is what we need. This is what we want. People can vote on it without the use of politicians. And then the experts, like what I call the genius committee or the professionals, they can okay, well, this is what the people want. How do we apply it? And so their job is to apply what is in there and include it in an order that makes sense for application. So you don't have to vote for a political party. You don't have to vote for individuals. You just do what the population wants. You put it in an application what the population actually wants, to modify or to install or to set up, including foreign policy. Does the Canadian people in my country, what do we want to do about terrorism or Al Qaeda? Okay, well, let's the information is kind of out there everywhere on the internet. Let's let them kind of put up some proposal. Let's vote on it. Let's all discuss it as a collection. Again, without politicians being involved, let's all discuss it, and then you have this panel of experts say, okay, well, this is what we want to do. What do we want? What do we do with that? Do we have to discuss with Obama? Do we have to discuss with Putin? And let's put some people in place to actually do that. Totally doable. You can imagine the savings and costs of all the political system, the paperwork, a lot of bureaucracy around it that could be made by setting up a system like that. And we don't need to vote for one party or another. And I know around the world, it's not only France. A lot of people are disillusioned and tired about all the political party system, all the shenanigans that happen on the political level, and things that happen, and we're kind of shaking our heads like, oh, come on, like, why are we doing this? Why are we involved in this conflict? There's no real polling happening to sample the desires of the population, and the population is not aware of everything that's going on, because it's related to a certain amount of individuals that to make the decisions, and we're not really consulted as individuals. It's the deputies kind of discuss it and decide it on their own, and they're supposed to poll the population to kind of get a sense of what they want, but it's really the individual politician, like the deputies, that decide for us. Um, so it's an old, obsolete system that we don't need anymore. So let's do the direct route. Let's save some money, let's save some of our taxes, and get better policies put into place that are more in line with what we want and what we need as a population. And I assure you, if that happens in the United States, if you actually have a full system like that happens in the United States, there won't be any more war on terror. I guarantee it. There's going to be a lot of stuff that the U.S. does as a foreign policy that the population is just going to stop doing. And same with most of the other countries. Canada tends to not do a lot of aggressive foreign policy, like using military action, but it does, and that would completely stop. I guarantee you, a lot of people would stop spending, agreeing to for their taxes to go to military spending as well. Because we're just tired of it. So why would we go to Afghanistan? Let them deal with their own stuff. Let their population deal with their own stuff. They are not a danger to us. So maybe relief efforts, and there's a lot of great uses for military. Maybe use like a military police. That's great, right? To help people, but not to aggress in other people's lands where they have to solve their own problems in their own way, in their own pace. I mean, each country, each area of the world are evolving as a society in different ways, and we have to be respectful of that, even if it is violent at times. As long as it's not genocide and things like really, really serious, where I think a military police should intervene for the right reasons. But actions like what we did in Libya, for example, removing Gaddafi, we meaning the West, NATO, U.S., and whatnot, and creating a country that is in chaos really afterwards. Sure, Gaddafi wasn't the perfect leader, not by a long shot, but he was doing also some really interesting things and great things that were really well respected in the continent of Africa. And we made it worse, and that was on the Western world's citizens' dollars. So that's if the people decide for their own things. They're going to decide things that are worth for them in their own countries, in their own backyards. We can take care of our own stuff here and support when there's really terrible things that actually happen elsewhere in the world. I think we would react and say, okay, I'm ready. Let's help them out. Let's offer true help, not help that is motivated by greed and money or gain. At least I'm hoping the citizens of North America are of the same mindset that I am. So anyway, let's encourage any initiative that is about the popular democracy, digital democracy. If you hear it, smell it, see it anywhere in social media, like it, share it, talk about it. This is the new age. This is where we should be going. This is the new type of democracy. Real democracy, not about votes. We don't care about votes, like voting for a political party. That's not important. We need to auto-manage ourselves. We need to, propose different actions, different bills, different laws, and different whatever it is. And as a population, we can agree or not agree on it. And we can talk about it online, and we can use some of these experts to actually put it into action. Very, very simple system, very, very doable. And that's how you have your say in things. It's not about which political party. It's about enacting real life things into a society, real life laws, real life actions, within and without the country. And I think that could work really well. So do it, support it, talk about it, but never ignore it. So I'll talk to you on another subject next time. Enjoy your weekend and enjoy your